So this is an itch for success. What is itch.io? Itch.io is a website that I like to think of as the YouTube for game developers. YouTube being this incredible platform where anybody can upload an infinite amount of videos for everyone to see. Itch is like that. You can just upload as many games as you want. It has a ridiculously generous file size limit. I've never hit it. I don't think there's even a limit on how many projects you can upload. Maybe there is, and that's just to like prevent bots from abusing it, and I guarantee if you'd like email them, they just give you more. It is an incredible platform where you can store all of your games, all of your projects, even just software coding projects, comic books, music, basically anything related to games. You can store them for free so that everyone can play them online, download them, and you can even sell them. And Itch, as we'll talk about later, is very, very generous with how it stores all of your games. Why is itch.io? Okay, well, I just like this meme. It's not a great question. What we should rather ask is, why do we use itch.io? We use Itch for those reasons I just stated. It's like the YouTube for game developers. It can store all of your projects, and that's a really good thing. Because if you just make games, it's cool. But if you don't tell anyone about those games, you can't expect to go anywhere, right? Like we make art primarily to share with others, to share our experiences, to give emotional experiences. And if you've yet to really have that experience of making a game and then seeing other people really play it en masse and seeing people laugh from your games and really have fun with something that you created that came out of your mind, that is just an incredible, invaluable experience that I definitely want all of you guys to have. And so Itch is a wonderful platform. I cannot recommend it enough for this exact purpose. How is itch.io? Again, I just really like this Gamora meme. Better question is, how do we use itch.io? So let's leave PowerPoint and just get down to some brass tacks regarding that. This is itch.io. Because I've talked about this so much, I know you lot have seen this before, and I've encouraged you guys to use it as your portfolio base, and will continue to do so. But I'd like to give you a quick run through. If you have any questions, please shout them out. So as I said, Itch can store basically any project you want. It's primarily video games, but can be card games, board games, comic books, just pure game assets, music assets, really anything you would like. We can browse for games and software tools, books, comics, assets, anything we'd like. We can see games that are free, that cost different prices, and it has a pretty robust tag system as well. It's a very good site for your own consumer usage, but we're not as interested in that. We're interested in how we can utilize this. So I'm logged in with my account over here, as you can see. You, of course, can register, log in, make an account there. And if you click on your name, it will take us to our creator page. So this is what your portfolio should be. Having your own website is really great. I recommend having your own website. But this, again, is going to freely host as many projects as you want, which is just hugely beneficial. My game creator page, I put a fair amount of work into. I'm decently proud of it, but it's definitely not the best out there. I am not the best in the world with this. So when you hit Edit Profile, here you can add in information, change your display name, link to a website, your Twitter handle, and then set all of your information through this little form. You can switch it to HTML, have lots of control, do good information there. And I recommend doing something similar to this. Tell the world a little bit about yourself. What is your skill set? What are you good at? What are you passionate about? And what are you doing here? You can link to your socials and your contact information, all that kind of good stuff. And that's pretty simple. But something more important than the content is actually the presentation, frankly. Because I've seen a lot of empty game pages that do not have all of this information like I have about Twitter handles and stuff. But if it has good theming, that can leave a better impression, and then you can just kind of let your work stand on its own. That's a very good avenue. So here we can press this button, Edit Theme. That will bring up this. Mine is going to look a little bit busier and uglier than yours would on a default account. Here we can set the background colors, do whatever you'd like there, and have a lot of control. I recommend making sure that your color scheme just has a lot of contrast, and you focus on the text of the web page being very readable. You can change that text, you can change your font, you can change the font size. I don't recommend getting too crazy with this. Itch does a pretty good job scaling if we control the zoom, and if we try and view it on a tablet or on a cell phone. It does a really good job scaling to that. But yeah, I would recommend keeping it mostly default in terms of font size. You can play with the the actual font, but keep it readable. Like here we have this. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, here we have a pixel font. It's not working on mine because I'm doing something a little bit more advanced here. But yeah, you can change these colors. I'd recommend going to a site like coolers.co, and here we can procedurally generate any amount of great color schemes. You can also just look for good color schemes, steal them from other websites. Nothing wrong with stealing. Yeah, so here we can just generate as many awesome color schemes as we want. It does a really good job. And then you can showcase all of your projects. So I have quite a few projects on here. So I'm actually going to pick on our friend Rich because he has a page. I know this is a default Itch profile page. So it has this black text, kind of salmon pink link text, white background, and then the games are shown in what is called the list format here. This list format can work if you have content that goes along with it, so as you scroll down the page, you're looking at the games and you're looking at some kind of text about the creator. But generally, I recommend that you change your project layouts from sidebar, this list format, to grid. This will lay them all out at once. It just looks a lot nicer, a lot neater. You can get more on the page at once. Really recommend that. And then you can go further by using collections, which are essentially like playlists. They're just a group of games that you made or that you didn't work on that you just want to showcase. So here I have mine grouped up into some of mine that won their respective game jams, some other 3-hour games, a specific type of game design that I'm really obsessed with, and then just some other categories: software, card games, contract work, and assets. And then even my really, really buggy and completely unfinished games that I'm ashamed of and need to get back to. And then even games I didn't program at all, I just made music for. All of this is really nice. I don't know about you, but this is a very attractive itch page, at least relative to something so empty and default, in my opinion. Again, I'm picking on Rich just because he's the blank page that could spring to mind. But I'm certainly not the high bar when it comes to itch pages. I know some people, like my friend Andy here, has their own itch page that uses a lot more complicated stuff. So I am using just a smidgen of custom CSS. So this is why my theme page looks so ugly, frankly, because it has this drop shadow applied to all of the text. That makes it really hard to read on my theme page, but that doesn't really matter. That's just very subtle drop shadow on my main font. You can barely see it. I messed around with the color, so now it's a little bit more clear. And that just gives a little bit of depth and dimension to it. I'm definitely not a master, or even, I would say, intermediate at CSS. I'm pretty bad at CSS, frankly. Whereas someone like Andy, he's doing a lot of great stuff. He has a custom cursor. All of his games, see how they shake and wiggle when you hover over them? It's very, very juicy, very nice. And yeah, the custom cursor will change as it hovers over. He has these cute little GIFs. He has this little logo of his, of the dog, and when you hover over the logo, it changes into a little heart. That's like super cute. Conveys a lot of personality. This obviously being very kind of silly and 90s internet themed. But does a pretty good job. A simpler page, but another very effective page would be by my friend Wyatt. And this was the itch profile page that inspired me to make mine. Beforehand, mine was really, really simple and bare bones. And even more ugly than it is now. And then I saw my friend Wyatt's page. He does a great job breaking up all of his games. You can see that he has his best work up here that he's most proud of, right at the top. And those are in much bigger boxes. And then he's using collections to show his okayest work, his non-game software, different experiments, his worst work, which are very buggy and unfinished. And this looks really good. This is a very simple page. There's not really any CSS going on. But just by how it's broken up, this is very attractive. And the point of this is to get hired, frankly. Game development is an industry that's all about your previous work. It's about your portfolio. It's not so much about your degree. You can get a degree. Having a degree in computer science certainly helps. Having a degree in fine arts certainly helps. And then there are even specific colleges that teach actual game design. Of course, you can study there. But what you're doing, getting those degrees, what's actually going to get you hired is not the degree. It's not the piece of paper. It's going to be the projects that you make throughout the course of getting your degree. It's going to be your portfolio. And this is why I just hammer home itch so loudly and so repetitively, because this is amazing. This makes my friend very attractive to potential hirers and to teammates as well. That when I see an itch page like this, I want to work with this person because they've clearly shipped a lot of things, and shipping is the most important skill in game development and just in software development, creative works in general. Doesn't matter how many great ideas you have. We all have a billion game ideas and grand visions and scopes. It's about what you actually put out, because that step of finishing a project is always a lot more difficult than you think it would be. And so I recommend just uploading everything you ever made and ever will make to this website, to itch.io. It's free, it does a really great job, it's really easy, and I'll show how to do that in just a second. But you see, White has these really great games at the top. I really love all of these games, and here it has like a GIF that kind of shows what the game is doing. This is a really cool archery game that has great game feel. But then even down here, it has these worst works. These, barely has cover images. They're very buggy, very broken and unfinished. But the page is better for having them. This is very common, and I certainly went through this when I started with game development. When I first started making games, I was very shy and cautious. I didn't want to publish anything I did because I only wanted to show my best work, my best foot forward. I wanted to just kind of work on stuff mostly in isolation until I could make something I was really proud of that I could sell, and then I would put that up online. But that's the wrong way to go about it. Much better way is to share literally everything, and then just group it up. You can say, hey, here, these are my buggy games. Because the truth is, people aren't going to play these. No one plays these games, and that's okay. But the page is stronger because it shows, hey, I've done all this stuff, and I'm not afraid to show my broken work. And sometimes people can like your broken games. It certainly has happened for me. Stuff that I think is just awful, people will play and find out that they actually kind of find some value in it. And again, it's just showing this mass, this quantity. And I've always been a quality over quantity person, but in this case, that quantity is really the most important thing. And again, you can and should have good quality products, but you just put those at the top. Because if someone's looking at your portfolio, whether that's on itch.io, or any other website or service on your custom website, if people look at your game portfolios especially, if they play any of them, they're only going to play like the first one or two that are at the top. They're not going to play the full list. You could literally just have like a page that doesn't even load down here. No one would ever notice because they're only going to play the top two. So you just put your top two best games at the top, and then that's pretty good, pretty attractive for a hirer. And again, you can get a lot deeper in this. Actually, I'll show a few more examples. Here, this is a game page by he updated. As of yesterday, the page said he was a 13-year-old game developer in Russia. Now he's a 14-year-old game developer, so good for him. Happy birthday. I really like this radyshenkya. I made a few videos on his games. He's very sweet. And so yeah, he's just making these games, and the fact that he's putting out all these games, and the quality varies. There's mostly weekly game jam games, but if he keeps this up, he's going to go really, really far. Because, if you just made a game a week, it doesn't take long until you have like a pretty good, thick library of games, and your skills will have improved so dramatically just through that practice and experience. But even this is a very simple page. This doesn't have all of the fancy CSS and these big buttons and the Pikachu dancing GIFs. It just has a nice color palette. It's just a nice kind of somewhat muted pink salmon, and then this nice bright pink and kind of a nice purple. Gives a good color contrast. It looks very visually appealing. But again, you can go even further than this. Here is my buddy Josh. And yeah, Josh originally had a completely default profile page, like Rich here. And it's fine, I'm picking on Rich, but it's not an attack on his character or anything, because it literally will just takes a sitting, and then you just add some color palettes, change the settings. And yeah, Josh had the exact same page, where it was default white, really boring, really ugly. We talked about it, and he ended up making this, which is just gorgeous. He has this GIF in the background using some unused game assets of his, and he has it wrap and seamlessly fold together using CSS. And yeah, all of the games they kind of push in with CSS. It's really, really nice. And so this just makes you really attractive, again, to potential teammates and especially to potential employers. So important. But let's also run through how we would upload a game. So it's pretty easy. If you're making a game for a game jam, which is often what you would do, about 70% of the projects on Itch are made for game jams. Itch is the best hoster on the internet for different game jams. You can see here's the full list. There's always a billion running at any particular time. If you're making a game for a game jam, you can hit join jam and then submit your project, and then you can upload the game directly from here. Otherwise, you would hit your little drop down right here and say upload new project. And this would be the form for that. It's a lot of settings, but it's pretty straightforward once you get used to it. You'd put in a title, say my cool project. You need to put in the title to save the page, but that's all you need to do. You can change the URL. Again, it's really generous. You can literally set whatever URL you want. It would normally just be your game's title, but it's very cool to have customization. You can put a little customization in the tagline there. You need to upload a cover image, so I'll upload this little pug. That lets your game be indexed. So that means it's available within a search engine like Google or within itch.io search engine. Again, that's just kind of to prevent empty pages for going up, prevent abuse by bots and that kind of thing. You should always just upload a cover image. Just upload some of your game assets. If you're a great artist, you can make a really beautiful custom page. I just tend to record some gameplay for my games and save that as a GIF and put that as my cover page. And that's pretty effective. But worst comes to worst, just put literally your main character sprite in the cover page. That's good enough. And here you can set what you're uploading. Normally it would be a game, but again, you can upload software tools, comics, ebooks, game assets, anything that you would like. And then down here in Uploads, this is how you would submit your work. I'll go over to one of my older games. Nope, that's an unfinished one. It's fun with physics. Let's try this one. So here I tend to save all my my game builds like this, and here I have a HTML5 zip file. So you would get this from your game engine of preference. This is with GameMaker Studio 2. I have the HTML5 module. It's very easy. I just hit export. Unity, it's pretty much the same thing. You're going to export for WebGL. It's going to give you a folder that's going to have an index.html file. That's how we make games playable in browser, which is hugely important. See how fast it uploads, really easy. But important thing is you need to set the kind of project. Normally they'd be downloadable, so that's when you have a zip file with a Windows or a Mac or Linux build of your game. Here I just upload an HTML file, so I'm just going to hit HTML. You could also set Unity, Java, Flash. That all works. Set a release status. That doesn't really matter as much. I always change my suggested donation, and then I can set this file to be playable in browser. And then you have a lot of options here. Some of these options you would determine when exporting your game originally. It's very important to look at those. Usually there's a button that says like center game in browser. Pretty much always want to do that. You can set full screen switching. Different settings for your HTML5 or WebGL upload. But then you can change the viewport dimensions. You can have it be embedded in the page, or you would click it to launch it full screen in another window. For Unity, you can have it auto-detect the size of the window. You can have it automatically start on page load. I don't really recommend ever doing that because it's normally just kind of a jerk move because someone loads up your page and then just starts like blasting music at them. It's like those annoying ads that like play a video automatically. You can do that. Don't really recommend it. Do recommend always, always, always hitting full screen button. There's basically no reason to ever put this off unless you have a very specific kind of like fancy CSS thing going on. Maybe, but always just go full screen. Just gives more options. I always want to play games full screen. It's usually the norm. You can also enable scroll bars in the iframe. Normally don't need that. And then just like when customizing your profile page, you can give a lot of information here. I recommend setting up the format. You can say, oh, here are my controls. You describe everything. And then you can do more fine-grained stuff, setting your genre, your tags. Recommend doing that. That just makes your game more discoverable so that it's more easily found with search engines. And that does really happen. I've uploaded old games that I made like 5 years ago. I just put on some tags. I have a stupid like Flappy Bird clone game, and that has like 300 plays or something just from me putting it up there and saying it was a Flappy Bird game and it was playable in browser, that kind of thing. Really, really nice. And of course, if you're doing a very professional game, which is not normally what's going to be happening with Game Jam games, but if you're doing a game that you're selling on Steam, Windows Store, elsewhere, you can link to that. It does a very nice job. You can control the community, and then you would save that with that button. And then, because I uploaded an HTML5 game and I set it to be playable in browser, we can run this game right in the window. You can see I can click to launch in full screen. And here we go. Here's a really silly game that I made a while ago, where you're like controlling different objects with white holes and black holes. Yeah, very simple. And I recommend always doing this. Having all of your games be playable in browser is hugely important because it's just reducing barriers between your potential players and them playing your game. If you make them have to download everything when they could have just played it in browser, there's no reason to do that. If you make a single browser version, then you don't have to worry about porting for Windows versus Mac versus Linux. Normally that's easy now with any modern engine, but if it's literally just playable in HTML5, that's all you need, frankly. And then just like with the creator page, you can go over here, set different colors for the background. I recommend always doing this. Again, it just looks a lot better. I'm setting colors at random, so it's not a good example. But yeah, you can do all sorts of customization here. It's really rather easy. And you can even go as far as uploading images for your banner, for your background, and for your embed background. This is where you can really shine, especially if you're an artist. I tend to not do this as much because I make my games very hastily, but this can really put you a cut above everybody else. I'll just go to my pictures and grab a random screenshot. Here, this one's something. Oh, right, so that's the embed background, right? So that is going to show up as the little window there. I'll grab another one for the background. Here. So then, yeah, this shows instead of the color, and we can change how it loops, that kind of thing. Obviously, I'm picking very bad examples very quickly, but you can take this to make really good-looking pages. Not this page, but you can make very beautiful pages. Actually, a great example comes from my buddy Josh Wilson that I brought up before. This is actually probably the pinnacle. This is the prettiest game page I've ever seen. He has this game called Nokia Explorer that was made for Nokia Jam. And so he used the banner and the backgrounds to set this beautiful, like slowly moving star system, just very simple square, blocky pixel stars with parallax as they slowly flow across the screen. And then we can scroll down and see that it has a Nokia phone embedded in the page. And then the game is inside the Nokia window. Like, that's so gorgeous. It's really, really clever, really, really pretty. This is one of the best things I think you could ever really do. And again, using CSS to really customize the page and make it very beautiful. And again, when you have a bunch of projects, when you have a lot of really good-looking projects, and just this volume, and really nice ones at the top, it makes you very attractive to potential teammates that might want to work with you for a game jam, or maybe for an indie game. And when you're trying to get a job, it's a lot more effective if you walk into an interview and say, okay, here's my resume. Resume is just a piece of paper. You can do some interesting stuff. I recommend making like your resume a brochure, actually. It can be a little bit stand out, do something a little bit more interesting. But far more effective than just handing them a stupid piece of paper is saying, hey, here's my website, here's my portfolio, here, you can play all these games in the browser. You don't have to worry about downloading it. Itch, again, is so generous that if you have your own website, you can embed the games hosted on Itch onto your website. It's really wonderful. And so that is my main recommendation for why we should use Itch. But again, you can also sell your games on here. I actually recently made my first sale on Itch, which was really exciting because I have all my games hosted for free, so it's just a nice donation from a nice indie game developer. And Itch is, again, the most generous game platform available. Biggest one, of course, is Steam. Steam does a great job. Does a great job hosting millions of games. It's now become a lot more open, kind of being a YouTube for game developers as well. You still have to pay to get up there. And then Steam takes 30% of your revenue, takes a 30% revenue split. The Epic Game Store came out last year or the year before. They are now taking 12%. And then Epic was like trying to dunk on Steam for Steam taking more. Steam is actually kind of in the right on that one. Steam offers way more than Epic does, namely infinite amount of Steam codes, of key codes. All of the key codes which like you can sell on your own website for whatever you want, and Valve would get nothing of that. Those are kind of subsidized by the 30% cut, whereas Epic provides very little in comparison. I think either revenue split is pretty fair for what they're offering. But itch.io, by default, takes a 10% revenue split. But that's by default. You can actually set the revenue split between yourself and Itch to anything you would like. You can give Itch 50%, give Itch 90, 100%, or a lot of people give Itch 0%, and you can take all of the revenue, which I think is kind of a jerk move. I think you should give Itch a little bit of money. They're doing a lot of really amazing things for the industry. But you can do that, and a lot of people certainly do, and Itch is really cool and laid back about it. So that's my pitch. I think itch.io is just incredibly important for building up your portfolio, getting yourself out there, getting you a nice base where you can say, hey, this is who I am, these are my games, this is what I can offer to your team and especially to your business. So, thank you very much. If you have any questions, I will take them now. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No. That's by default. You don't have to do anything. Most of my games I make in GameMaker Studio 2 now. And so it's just the same as you would in any engine. Write in the code for controller support. HTML5 games just read it just the same. I literally have to make 0 code changes. It will work the same for Windows, Mac, Linux, and WebGL. The only thing that you can't get on HTML5, at least to my memory or knowledge, is you cannot get and save information to the user's clipboard. That's a web security thing. I ran into that because I made this app that was a, where is it? Yeah, it's a Game Jam theme generator. And here, you would click on these different themes, and it would copy it to the clipboard. On Windows, it doesn't work on HTML5, which I'm really bummed by. But yeah, this would generate a bunch of Game Jam themes, and it's really useful to copy it, but unfortunately, the internet and HTML5 does not let you do that. But that's pretty much it. You can get all the information from the keyboard, all the information from controllers, and you can't even adapt these. It's a little bit more complicated, but you can make your games playable within a web browser on a phone. So they don't even have to download like an app on an Android or an iOS phone. You don't have to build it for Android and iOS, which is a huge headache. That's probably one of the most annoying target platforms. Building for Windows, Mac, pretty easy. Building for Android, fair bit more annoying. Building for iOS is really annoying because Apple is very, very particular about nobody playing in their sandbox. But if you just build it for HTML5 and set up the resolution and set touchscreen controls, which again works just as fine. I have all of these games playable with mouse controls, but those mouse controls just correspond directly to a touchscreen control as well. So again, I have to do no additional code. It's so convenient and lovely. Making games is the easiest it's ever been. Like in 2020, being a game developer is stupendously easy. If we look back 30 years ago, it was astronomically more difficult. And yeah, you can just make a game that's playable on any OS, whether it's a desktop, laptop, or phone or tablet, which is pretty amazing. You have another question, anybody? All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate you letting me rant.